The sirens tore through the warship like jagged metal, red lights bouncing violently along the corridors. Fleet Captain Ronan Vaylor slammed his palm against the console, cutting through the blaring noise with a shout. "Report." His voice carried urgency and authority, but underneath it, a pulse of unease ran through him. The observation deck was chaos. Crew members scrambled to stations, their faces pale, eyes wide. "Captain," Lieutenant Mara called, pointing to the main display, "an unknown fleet is emerging from the nebula. Their speed, it's beyond anything we've ever measured." Ronan's jaw tightened. He didn't need confirmation to know this was dangerous. Every system read red. But his mind didn't linger on fear. Action was all that mattered. He grabbed the nearest tactical console and started issuing orders. Evasive patterns Delta 7. Shields to maximum. Target tracking, focus on the lead ship. Everyone else, prepare for immediate engagement. The crew moved with precise urgency, but something on the hull caught Ronan's eye. A faint shimmer like liquid glass clinging to the outer plating. He squinted. It wasn't part of the warship's design. The figure pulsed with color, shifting between deep blue and green, almost alive. "Sir, that's," Mara began, but Ronan cut her off. "I see it. Secure it. Nothing happens to that creature." "Creature?" she asked, confusion mixing with disbelief. "Yes," Ronan said firmly, never taking his eyes off the shimmer. "And I mean anything. Nothing on this ship is allowed to hurt it." A soft hum resonated through the deck as the creature floated closer, responding to Ronan's gaze. It had wings, translucent and shimmering, curling like liquid metal, but its eyes glowed with something intelligent, aware. It was neither fully alien nor fully familiar. Something about it stirred a memory deep inside him, a trust that defied reason. The fleet outside pressed in. Red streaks of alien fire lashed toward the ship, rocking it with brutal force. A wall of energy shields flared and flickered. Crew shouted warnings, panic threatening to take over. But Ronan moved swiftly, calculating angles, timing, and vectors like a master chess player. Each decision had to be perfect. Each second counted. He reached into the shadows of the deck and activated a hidden panel. A hatch slid open with a hiss, revealing a pod the size of a small room, half-finished but fully operational. His fingers flew over the controls, stabilizing energy fields around it. The pod was more than a safe space. It was a haven, a home he had built for the creature, and only now did it prove its value. A micromissile streaked past the observation deck, detonating against the outer hull. Sparks flew, a shower of molten metal hissed in the air. The pod shuddered but held. Ronan's heart beat faster, but he didn't flinch. "Get it inside. Now," he barked. The creature responded, gliding gracefully through the chaos, avoiding energy blasts as if it could anticipate them. Ronan guided it with subtle gestures, careful not to touch it, careful not to scare it. The bond between them was unspoken but real. Inside the pod, the creature landed gently, curling into a sphere of glowing scales. A soft sigh of relief escaped Ronan's chest, but there was no time to linger. The enemy fleet had already adapted, redirecting fire toward their position. Sensors screamed a warning. The pod was now being locked onto. Ronan's mind raced. He had to protect the creature, the pod, and the ship, all at once. One wrong move and everything would be destroyed. He gritted his teeth, feeling the familiar rush of tension that only a true human leader could endure. Fear existed, yes, but beneath it, a determination burned brighter than any weapon. He would not fail. A sudden tremor shook the observation deck. The lights flickered. From the corner of his eye, Ronan noticed a strange shadow darting across the hull outside the ship. Something large. Something moving toward them faster than it should be able to. The creature inside the pod stirred, its glow intensifying as if sensing the threat. Ronan's breath hitched. He had prepared for alien fleets, for missiles, for boarding attacks, but not for whatever that shadow was. A cold thrill ran through him, sharp and electric. His hands tightened on the console. "Brace for impact," he muttered. The words barely left his lips before the shadow hit, colliding with the ship's hull, sending a shudder through every deck. The lights went out for a heartbeat, plunging the room into darkness. Then emergency lights flickered on, revealing the pod slightly tilted, the creature glowing brighter than ever. Outside, sensors went haywire. The shadow moved again, faster this time, circling the ship like a predator. Ronan's eyes met Mara's. No words were needed. They both understood. This was just the beginning. Whatever had found them in the nebula wasn't interested in negotiation. And now, somehow, their secret companion had become the center of a threat they could barely comprehend. A faint, high-pitched hum filled the deck, a sound that wasn't coming from the ship. The creature inside the pod pulsed in resonance with it, as if calling to something, or warning of it. Ronan's stomach tightened. Questions raced through his mind. What was it? Why here? And how was it linked to the aliens outside? Before anyone could answer, the pod's energy field flickered violently. Sparks danced across the console. And then, from the sensors, a single blip appeared, one that shouldn't exist. Fast. Huge. Closing in. Ronan clenched his jaw, his hand hovering over the emergency override. The warship shuddered again as the blip disappeared from the radar, only to reappear in another location, inside the ship's perimeter. A predator had breached their defenses, and Ronan knew one thing for certain: the next move would not wait. The ship shook violently as the alien fleet's missiles screamed past, punching through the outer shields with a terrifying hiss. Ronan's fingers flew over the console, adjusting shield matrices and rerouting power from non-essential systems to reinforce the pod's energy field. Sparks flew across the deck as circuits overloaded. Every second felt like a lifetime. "Captain," Mara shouted over the alarms, "they're locking onto the pod. Targeting it directly now." Ronan's jaw tightened. He had expected enemy fire, but not such precision. Someone, or something, was watching them. He leaned closer to the holographic display, tracing incoming vectors. Evasive patterns aren't enough. We need a decoy. A hiss of surprise ran through the crew. A decoy meant splitting the ship's power and leaving the hull more vulnerable. Every second would count. But hesitation was death. "Prepare the auxiliary drones," Ronan barked, his voice cutting through the chaos. "I want 100% of them active in 5 seconds. Mara, coordinate the pod's containment field with the drones. Make it move as if it's escaping." Mara nodded, urgency etched on her face. The crew moved with precision, their training pushed to its limits. Microdrones buzzed to life, artificial copies of the pod projecting holographic signatures. The alien sensors flinched for the briefest moment, a flicker of confusion. That flicker was all Ronan needed. The creature inside the pod stirred, glowing brighter as the energy field around it adjusted. It let out a soft, melodic hum, almost responding to Ronan's command. The sound wasn't just beautiful, it was powerful, resonating through the hull and somehow stabilizing the failing shields. Ronan felt a rush of hope. The bond they had formed, unspoken but real, might just save them. Then the main observation panel lit up with another warning. "Captain, an alien boarding drone is approaching through the lower hangar. Sensors show it's adapting to our shields." Ronan's heart raced. A boarding drone meant immediate danger, and their crew was already stretched thin. "Deploy the automated defense turrets. I want a perimeter around the pod and the command deck. No exceptions. And Mara, prepare an override." "Override?" Mara asked, confusion mingled with fear. "Yes," Ronan said sharply. "If the drone gets too close, I'm taking direct control of the pod's energy field. We can use it to stun, maybe even repel the intruder. But it's risky. One misstep and the pod could collapse." Mara hesitated, but the urgency in his eyes silenced her questions. The crew activated the turrets. Beams of concentrated plasma cut through the corridors, intercepting the alien drone. Sparks and smoke filled the lower decks as the drone tried to adapt, but the human calculations were precise. For a moment, it faltered, just enough for the pod to hum in response. The hum turned into a low, resonant pulse, sending energy ripples through the ship. Ronan felt it in his chest, a physical vibration that made him stumble slightly. The creature's glow intensified, filling the pod with light so pure it reflected across the walls. The alien drone wavered under the strain, sparks flying from its joints. Ronan seized the moment. "Mara now. Link the pod to the auxiliary shields and project an energy pulse along the hull." Mara's hands danced over the controls. The pulse shot outward, wrapping the pod and the surrounding deck in a protective bubble. The alien drone screeched, a sound that wasn't just mechanical but almost alive, and was thrown backward by the sudden energy surge. It skidded across the corridor, metal panels crumpling as it collided with the hull. A small cheer broke out among the crew. A tiny victory. A micro payoff. The pod was safe for now. But Ronan didn't allow himself to breathe. The alien fleet wasn't gone. The shadows outside still moved, faster and more coordinated than before. Then the unexpected happened. Sensors picked up another anomaly. A massive energy signature emerging from the nebula, different from the rest of the fleet. Larger, almost organic in pattern. It pulsed with a rhythm that matched the creature inside the pod. Ronan's stomach twisted. It's responding to the creature. Mara's eyes widened. Captain, you mean? Yes, Ronan said, his voice low but steady. This creature isn't just a passenger. It's connected to them in ways we don't understand. And if we lose it, we could lose everything. The alien fleet's attention shifted subtly. Missiles that had been tracking the ship now swerved toward the pod's position, as if aware of the connection. Ronan's mind raced. The pod wasn't just a sanctuary, it had become the focal point of the battle. Get ready for boarding, Ronan said calmly, though every muscle in his body was taut with tension. If they breach the ship, the pod has to survive. We can't let them reach it. A low vibration ran through the hull. Something massive had detached from the nebula and was accelerating toward them at impossible speed. The sensors screamed as the energy spike grew. The crew froze, caught between awe and terror. The pod glowed brighter in response, the creature inside pressing against the walls of its energy sanctuary. Ronan's eyes narrowed. He clenched his fists. Hold steady, he said. Whatever comes next, we face it together. The hull shuddered again, stronger this time. Lights flickered. A shadow passed across the observation deck window, gigantic, fast, and terrifying. Something alive. Something bigger than anything they had prepared for. And then it hit the ship. Not a missile, not a laser, but a pulse of raw energy shaking the warship to its core. The pod's protective field flared violently, almost collapsing as the creature inside roared in resonance. Ronan's heart pounded. The crew scrambled to stabilize systems. Sparks rained across consoles. Smoke filled the air. But through it all, one truth crystallized. This was no ordinary battle. This was a confrontation that would test every ounce of human courage, intelligence, and ingenuity. The creature inside the pod pulsed again, stronger, almost challenging the threat outside. And then, from the corner of the observation deck, another blip appeared on the sensors. One that didn't belong to the alien fleet. Something else was approaching, silent, unseen, and very, very close. Ronan's eyes hardened. The fight was far from over. And whatever was coming, it was coming for them, and the pod. The warship trembled from the last pulse of energy, metal groaning under strain. Ronan's knuckles were white on the console as he assessed the damage. The alien fleet had slowed its assault, but sensors showed the new anomaly, the massive, unseen presence, was still inside their perimeter. Something alive. Something intelligent. Mara, Ronan barked, his eyes scanning the display, get me a full scan of the pod and the creature. I want to know everything it's capable of, now. Mara's fingers flew across the console, sweat streaking her face. The pod's energy field flickered under the strain of the previous hit, but the creature pulsed in response, glowing brighter than ever. Data streamed in, confirming what Ronan suspected. The creature wasn't just a passenger. Its bioelectric signature resonated perfectly with the ship's power systems. Ronan's heart skipped a beat. It can amplify shields and weapons, he whispered. It's not just a companion. It's a living weapon, but only for us. Only for a human it trusts. A low hum reverberated through the deck. The creature shifted in the pod, wings unfurling slightly, shimmering like molten light. The hum intensified, almost as if it were communicating, or reacting to the threat outside. Ronan felt it in his chest, a vibration that made the hairs on his arms stand on end. Then the first unmistakable sign appeared. On the tactical display, the alien fleet's microdrones began to falter. They zigzagged erratically, unable to maintain a lock on the ship. The anomaly outside the nebula, whatever it was, had reacted to the creature's resonance. Captain, Mara said, voice tight, the anomaly is coordinating with the creature, or maybe responding to it. Look at the readings. Ronan nodded grimly. It's connected. Somehow, this creature can influence them, or at least disrupt their systems. That might be our only advantage. The ship shuddered violently as a massive shadow passed the observation deck window. It was larger than the warship, sleek and fast, moving with a predator's precision. Ronan's mind raced. That's no drone. That's an actual organism. And it knows we're here. Before they could react, the shadow struck again. Energy slammed into the hull with brutal force, sending the ship off course. Consoles sparked, alarms screamed, and the crew was thrown to the deck. But the pod remained stable, its protective field shimmering under the creature's power. Ronan gritted his teeth. This is it. We're not just defending the ship anymore. We're defending something the entire fleet doesn't understand yet. And that means we have to think smarter than them. He ran to the pod's side, pressing a hand to the glass. The creature met his gaze, eyes glowing with intelligence. For a fraction of a second, Ronan felt a strange connection, as if it understood every thought, every plan he had. He smiled grimly. "All right, old friend. Time to show them what humans can do." He activated the pod's emergency interface, linking it directly to the ship's power grid. Energy surged through conduits, and the pod hummed in perfect harmony with the warship. The creature responded instantly, pulsing brighter, wings fluttering, generating shockwaves that rippled outward. The alien drones approaching the ship faltered under the energy pulse. One screeched and collapsed, sparks flying as it hit the hull. Another veered off, slamming into an enemy frigate nearby. The creature's influence was real, undeniable. Ronan's heart raced with a mix of fear and exhilaration. Humans had created technology, yes, but intelligence, courage, and empathy were what gave them an edge. Then came the twist. The sensors screamed a warning. A new energy signature was approaching from within the ship itself, something hiding in the shadows. Not a drone, not part of the fleet. Something alive, moving silently through the corridors. Ronan froze. "Inside," he whispered. The thought alone sent a shiver down his spine. His instinct screamed that the anomaly was not just dangerous, it was hunting the pod, the creature, and them. He grabbed Mara's arm. "Prepare the automated defense turrets. I want corridors sealed. Every hatch closed. Nothing gets through. And Mara," his voice dropped, steady and commanding, "I need a direct feed from the pod. I have to anticipate its moves." Mara's hands flew over the console. The pod responded immediately, sensing the imminent threat. Its glow intensified, casting shadows across the observation deck. The alien inside the ship was clever, slipping past sensors with unnatural skill. But the creature seemed to anticipate it, pulsing rhythmically as if communicating a warning. Suddenly the anomaly breached the first hatch. Sparks flew. The lights flickered. Ronan fired a plasma cannon from the deck, striking the intruder, but it barely slowed. It moved with shocking speed, almost fluid, circling the pod with lethal precision. Ronan realized the truth. This intruder wasn't attacking blindly. It was hunting, calculating, testing. And the pod, the creature inside it, was central to whatever game was being played. He clenched his fists. "We can't just defend. We have to fight smart. Use the creature. Use the ship. Outthink them." His gaze met the creature's again, and in that moment, understanding passed between them. It wasn't just trust, it was strategy. Ronan activated a secondary pulse, sending energy through the pod in a concentrated beam. The creature expanded its glow outward, creating a shield that repelled the intruder and disrupted the alien fleet's sensors. The anomaly recoiled, retreating slightly, giving the crew a moment to regroup. Mara let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Captain, that worked." Ronan's eyes never left the pod. "It did. But this is only the beginning. Whoever, or whatever, sent that shadow inside the ship, it knows about the creature now. And that means it will come back." A new blip appeared on the sensors, small, almost invisible. But Ronan's gut told him it wasn't small at all. Something was moving fast, and it was closing in from within the nebula. He pressed a hand to the pod. "Hold on. Whatever comes next, we face it together." The glow inside the pod intensified, and a soft hum filled the deck, a signal that the creature understood the danger and was ready to respond. But Ronan knew the fleet's fate, the pod's safety, and even the warship itself now hinged on a single truth. Human courage and intelligence alone might not be enough. The hum grew louder. A shadow moved across the observation window, larger, faster, unstoppable. And then, without warning, the sensors went dark. Ronan's heart pounded. The ship was blind. The enemy was close. And whatever had entered the nebula was about to strike. The warship shuddered violently as systems flickered. Sensors were down, communications scrambled, and the alien anomaly had closed in from the nebula, its massive shadow sliding across the hull like a predator stalking prey. The crew braced against walls and consoles as the ship rocked from unseen impacts. Every second felt like an eternity, and Ronan's mind raced faster than any AI could compute. "Mara," he shouted over the alarm, "manual override on the pod. We can't rely on sensors anymore." She nodded, fingers flying across the console. Sparks danced as circuits overloaded. The pod glowed brighter than ever, the creature inside thrumming with energy, wings unfurling in an almost protective gesture. Ronan took a deep breath and pressed his palm to the pod's glass. "Trust me. Now." A pulse surged through the pod and into the ship's energy conduits. The warship's hull hummed with unnatural resonance. The creature's glow intensified, spreading through the corridors in a wave of energy that pushed back against the anomaly. But it was far from over. The shadow outside wasn't just resisting, it was adapting. A sudden explosion rocked the bridge as the alien anomaly struck the hull near the aft section. Debris rained down. Crew members screamed, some thrown against walls. The pod trembled violently. Ronan's heart pounded. He had seconds to act. He grabbed a plasma cutter from the emergency locker. "I'm going outside," he growled. Mara's eyes widened. "Captain, it's suicide." Ronan didn't argue. "It's the only way. I can stabilize the pod manually. I can keep it safe until we win this fight." Suiting up in record time, he activated the EVA thrusters. The observation window slid open, and Ronan floated into the void, the stars streaking past as the ship rocked beneath him. Below, the pod shimmered, suspended by its own energy field. Outside, the anomaly circled, massive and silent, pulses of energy radiating like the heartbeat of a predator. Ronan's fingers flew over the pod's manual interface. He synced the creature's energy with the ship's auxiliary power conduits. Sparks flew as he rerouted energy to reinforce the field around the pod. The creature pulsed in response, wings fluttering, almost urging him to hurry. Then, from the corner of his vision, he saw it, a spike of energy moving faster than expected. The anomaly lunged, striking the pod's energy field. The shockwave sent Ronan tumbling backward, thrusters blazing to keep him aligned. The pod's field flickered, dangerously close to collapse. Ronan gritted his teeth. "Not today," he muttered. He channeled more power manually, focusing every ounce of his strength and training into keeping the pod stable. The creature responded instantly, expanding its glow, creating a protective bubble that pushed the anomaly back. Inside the pod, the creature roared, a sound of pure energy that reverberated through the hull. The anomaly staggered as if caught off guard, and for a brief moment the tide shifted. The pod glowed like a miniature star, a beacon of hope in the void. Ronan didn't stop. He synchronized the pod's energy pulse with the ship's auxiliary drones, sending a chain reaction that cut through the alien microdrones approaching from the nebula. Sparks and debris scattered across the vacuum of space. Crew members inside the ship cheered, but Ronan had no time for celebration. One mistake in the pod, and the creature would be destroyed. The anomaly lunged again, faster this time, aiming directly for the pod. Ronan fired a last resort pulse from the pod's interface, combining the creature's energy with the ship's hull. The result was blinding. A shockwave radiated outward, slamming the anomaly backward. The force rattled the ship, throwing Ronan against the pod momentarily, but the energy field held. Inside the pod, the creature shivered, wings curling tightly. Ronan reached through the interface, feeling the vibrations, the raw intelligence, the trust. "We're almost there." "Hold on," he whispered. The connection between human and creature was more than strategy, it was instinct, empathy, and courage combined. The anomaly roared, a deep alien sound, and surged once more, attempting to strike the pod again. Ronan calculated. Timing. Trajectory. He twisted the pod's energy matrix just in time, creating a localized energy shield that reflected the impact. The anomaly recoiled, its momentum sending it spinning into the void, stunned but not gone. Ronan let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The pod floated, glowing steadily, its protective field intact. Inside, the creature shimmered, wings slowly unfurling, eyes meeting Ronan's with silent gratitude. He had saved it. For now. A cheer erupted on the bridge. The crew, inspired by Ronan's audacity and precision, redoubled their efforts, stabilizing shields and targeting the retreating alien fleet. Humans had held their ground, but the victory was fragile. Every system hummed under strain, every crew member exhausted, every heart pounding. Then came the micro cliffhanger. Sensors flickered again. Another energy spike appeared, different from the anomaly, sharper, faster. It wasn't just a shadow this time. It was something new. Something coming from deeper inside the nebula. Ronan's jaw tightened. He pressed a hand to the pod. "We've survived this wave," he said quietly, almost to himself. "But it's not over. Whatever's coming next, it will test us even harder." The creature inside the pod pulsed in response, as if acknowledging the truth. Ronan floated back toward the ship, hands steady on the control panel. The humans had fought back, had survived, had protected what mattered most. But the galaxy was far bigger, far stranger, and far more dangerous than any of them had imagined. The shadow from the nebula lingered outside, faint but unmistakable. It moved with purpose. It was intelligent. And it was coming for them again. Ronan's eyes hardened, determination shining brighter than fear. "Then we'll meet it head-on," he muttered. "Humans don't back down. Not ever." The pod glowed brighter, the creature within shifting like liquid light, wings flaring. The stage was set for the final confrontation, and the secrets it held. The warship floated in the quiet aftermath, the alarms silenced, the red lights dimmed. The crew moved cautiously, inspecting the hull for damage. Every hand trembled from adrenaline, every face etched with exhaustion. But the pod at the center of the deck glowed steadily, a small island of calm in the chaos. Inside, the creature shifted, wings folding gently, eyes meeting Ronan's with something almost like relief. Ronan let out a long breath, finally allowing himself a moment to feel the weight of what they had survived. The anomaly had retreated, for now, but the memory of its sheer size and speed lingered like a shadow in his mind. He ran a hand over the pod's glass, tracing the glowing outline of his companion. "We did it," he whispered. "We're still here." Mara approached cautiously. "Captain. The crew, they've never seen anything like this. They saw you out there manually synchronizing with the pod, they're inspired." Ronan smiled faintly, a mix of pride and exhaustion. "They're human. That's what counts. Not just the tech. Not just the creature. Humanity." His eyes drifted toward the crew, still working to stabilize shields and systems. Every face reflected resilience, courage, and determination, the qualities that had carried them through impossible odds. The creature inside the pod tilted its head, wings flickering softly. Ronan sensed an intelligence there deeper than instinct. It wasn't just a companion. It had chosen them, trusted them, and in return, it had saved the crew. For the first time, Ronan understood the connection wasn't one-sided. Humans had earned that trust, not by dominance but by courage, empathy, and clever thinking. A soft vibration ran through the deck, a pulse from the pod. The creature was communicating again, not with sound but with energy. It resonated through the ship's systems, stabilizing weakened conduits, reinforcing shields, and even subtly repairing minor hull breaches. The human crew watched in awe, realizing the bond between captain and creature was more than partnership. It was symbiosis. Ronan crouched by the pod, placing both hands against the glass. "You're safe," he said firmly. "And as long as I'm here, no one's taking you from us." The creature pulsed in response, almost acknowledging the promise. A small, almost joyful hum filled the deck, drawing smiles from the weary crew. Mara leaned close. "Captain, the anomaly, the fleet, it's all gone for now. Sensors show no signs of pursuit. We actually won." Ronan's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. "For now," he corrected. "Out there, in the nebula, something bigger is watching. Something connected to that creature." His gaze drifted to the holographic display showing the empty void of space. This fight wasn't just about survival. It was a warning. And a message. He straightened, feeling the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders again. The pod's soft glow reminded him that humanity's courage was only half the battle. Intelligence, creativity, and empathy, the ability to understand and protect something different, were what truly made them exceptional. The creature inside the pod wasn't just a symbol. It was proof that humans could rise to unimaginable challenges and prevail, even when the odds seemed impossible. Ronan turned to the crew. "Listen up. Today you've seen what it means to be human, not just fighters but thinkers, problem solvers, protectors. The galaxy will throw challenges at us we can't imagine. But this is what makes us strong. This is why we survive." A murmur of agreement ran through the crew, tension easing into pride. They had faced death, chaos, and the unknown, and they had emerged not just alive but inspired. Ronan's leadership had reminded them that courage wasn't absence of fear, it was the determination to act despite it. The creature inside the pod shivered, wings stretching, and emitted a soft, glowing pulse that filled the deck with warmth. Ronan felt a wave of emotion he hadn't allowed himself during the fight. Gratitude. Not just for the creature but for every human aboard, for every choice they had made in the heat of battle, and for the bond that had made victory possible. A final scan of the nebula confirmed that the immediate threat had dissipated, though a faint energy signature lingered far beyond sensor range. Ronan's brow furrowed. Something's still out there. Something watching. But for now, we've earned a moment of peace. He turned back to the pod, crouching beside it once more. The creature's glowing eyes met his. "We'll prepare," he whispered. "And next time we'll be ready." The creature's hum seemed to echo the sentiment. A partnership had been forged in the chaos of battle, one that would endure beyond this fight, beyond this ship, and perhaps beyond this galaxy. Ronan straightened, casting his gaze across the crew. Set a course for deep space. We need to understand what we're dealing with. Learn, adapt, survive. Humanity doesn't wait for the future, it shapes it. Mara gave a small smile. Captain, I think they'll follow you anywhere. He smiled faintly, feeling the weight of hope settle over the bridge. The humans, the creature, the warship, they were not just surviving. They were thriving. Together. Against impossible odds, they had proven that courage, intelligence, and empathy could conquer even the unknown. Ronan placed a hand lightly on the pod. And whatever's out there, whatever comes next, we'll face it. As humans. As protectors. As friends. The creature pulsed one last time, wings flaring gently, bathing the deck in warm, shimmering light. The warship moved forward, leaving the nebula behind, but the faint energy signature lingered. A promise, a warning, and a mystery. Ronan knew that the galaxy had more tests ahead, but now he also knew humanity was ready. And somewhere beyond the stars, the hum of the creature carried a message. They weren't just alone. Something, or someone, was watching. Waiting. And the adventure had only just begun.